Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is LCOBMW. I'm Glenn McGowan. It is officially car season around here, and like many of you, you're getting your car ready to get it out on the road. Maybe it's been sitting for a couple weeks or a couple months or a year or so. I have to do some maintenance on the C4 today. I'm going to do an oil change mainly, and I wanted to do kind of like an inspection list of things to look for when you haven't driven the car for a while to make sure that thing's safe for the road. So I'm going to get this thing jacked up, drain the oil out of it, and we're going to go over a little bit step-by-step things to keep an eye out for, just to check yourself before you get it on the road. This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW.com. Shop our site for Corvette performance parts, merchandise, and much more. See the link in the description or visit LCOBMW.com. So I got the car all jacked up. We'll start with some basic simple stuff here. First, your overall tire condition here. So tire pressure is a must, and you want to check to see if things dry rotted or not. I know like a lot of older cars, they have tires on it. The tread may not be low, but the actual tire itself is going to get dry rot and cracking all the way around it. I've ran across this myself several times from just cars sitting for a really long time. So that's one thing you want to check kind of right out of the gate. Make sure your tires are in good shape. Make sure there's no really bad flat spots and stuff like that from sitting. So just a quick go around real quick, check your tread, pressure, and then for any dry rot. I got my oil draining here. This is a good time to inspect for any oil leaks around your oil pan, stuff like that. So anything that's kind of out of the ordinary, any just drips accumulating on the floor or puddling on parts and stuff like that, or even up front here we can check for coolant leaks if there's any coolant laying anywhere, or power steering leaks around the rack. I mean, it's dirty but there's nothing wet. And then kind of up close here, closer to the radiator, look for any kind of coolant leaks or drips. Everything looks pretty decent. And if you have a manual transmission and you're concerned, you want to check your fluid level, this would be the time to pop the bolt out the side and check your fluid level on that. All right, now I'm going to do just a quick like suspension shakedown. So when you grab your wheel like this and you kind of push pressure up and down like that, you're checking to see if there's any play in your ball joints, upper and lower, and if there's any excessive play in your bushings and the control arm and stuff like that. So you just grab your wheel tightly and just push on it as hard as you can, and it should be pretty solid. Now, the next thing would be to check your rack and like your tie rod ends too. So there's gonna be a little bit of play here just because the rack may move a little bit, but you're gonna grab it this way and you're gonna move it in and out like that. So if there's an excessive clunking on the end part, it could be your outer tie rod or even the inner tie rod in the rack. But like I said, there is going to be just a little bit of movement just because the rack and the steering shaft is going to give a little bit. Even though like if your key is out of the car, the steering column is locked, but there's still going to be just a little bit of play. So this thing's pretty tight. I just redid the front end, all the bushings and stuff like that, but that's how you're going to check that. I'm going to take the wheel off. I'm going to take a look at the brakes. We're going to look at the thickness of the pads and the rotor condition and stuff like that. So you want to check that out as well. So we'll get an up-close view here what to look for. Okay, at first you want to check to make sure that your rotor is not rusted or anything like that, and you can't really tell if it's warped that much unless you actually drive the car. So the next thing, you want to sneak down here like that and take a look at the thickness of your brake pad. So you have that metal backing plate there, and then that thick beefy piece there, that's what you want to check. So if it looks like it's getting close to that metal backing plate, it's time to replace it. You want to definitely check the inside pad too, because sometimes your caliper will wear unevenly and your inside pad will be into the rotor and then your outside pad will be completely fine. So you want to check both inside and outside of the pad. While we're here too, you want to check your brake hose for any signs of cracking. So these ones look okay. They're definitely getting older, but they're not terrible for the time being. But you want to check these too, because a lot of times when you start turning them and moving them a little bit, there'll be a bunch of cracks on the rubber and stuff like that. So you want to keep an eye out on those as well. And also while you're in here too, take a look to see if your shock is leaking, anything like that, and this will give you a better view on your control arm bushings and your ball joints, and also a great time to hit those grease fittings up on your ball joint, tie rod, lower ball joint. Hit those all up while you're here and you got the wheel off. So I always run synthetic oil in all my cars. I run Mobil 1 as the brand that I usually choose, and it's relatively inexpensive nowadays. And the cheapest I've found is usually at like Walmart. They usually have it on sale. These like 5-quart like containers are usually around like 25 bucks, something like that, $25 to $28, which really isn't that bad. And they also have other options too. I think even Walmart has their own synthetic oil too if you're on a budget, or you could always run conventional oil too. But my cars sit a lot, and Mobil 1 synthetic is usually really good for these. I can just change it once, maybe twice a year if that. All right, so the oil's filled. Now I'm gonna do a walk around the engine bay and check out what fluids to check and other little things to look for. So we'll start off on the driver's side here. So if your car is stick shift, this is your fluid master cylinder. So you wanna check the fluid level there. Moving right along to the brake fluid here. As you can see, mine's low. I'm gonna top that off. So you can check both of these. And then you can also check the condition of your spark plug wires and stuff like that. That's one of those things where if you haven't done it in a while, you probably should put new plugs and wires in it, and like a fuel filter, like those type of maintenance things. This stuff was all done not too long ago and the car runs fine. If your car is misfiring, obviously it's the first thing you want to jump to. Also too, we're going to just check some of these vacuum lines, all that kind of stuff like that, that is possibly cracking or falling apart, because this car's 85, so it's kind of old, but it's still, you know, worth checking. Hoses and stuff like that. Now we'll go on to the SERP belt here. Now this one seems okay, but a lot of times you want to check to see, this one's starting to do it a little bit. There's just a little cracking in it that needs to be addressed too, because I think those little cracks in there are starting to get hard. You don't want that thing to split on you on the road. So just check the condition of your belt there. Radiator hoses, stuff like that. Make sure they're in good shape. They're not splitting or swelling or any kind of like cracking, and just check around the hose clamps and stuff like that. Your intake air boot, stuff like that. Obviously your air filter too is a good thing to replace if you haven't done it in a while. I do have a K&N in there, which can just be cleaned out and serviced, but that was put on not too long ago. And then moving right here, this is your power steering fluid, so you want to check that out too. Check the level on that. And we'll move along to the passenger side. So the first thing would be to check the level of your coolant. You want to check it at the radiator here, and you also want to check it the level on the overflow as well. So always check this when the car has been off and cooled down, so the coolant actually is sucked back down to its normal level. Because once it gets hot, it expands and then fills up your overflow. And then if you try to take this off, it'll spray you in the face with hot coolant, which is not fun. So check it when the car is cool, check it here, top that off, and then the same thing down there, top that off, and there will be like a level reading on the side there too. So same thing, just check all your lines, all that kind of stuff, all your coolant hoses here. Just give it a good old once over, make sure nothing's kind of out of place or leaking or any cracks and stuff like that. Now, this is where you can check your oil level. You check that with the car off. And then if your car is automatic, you'll have another dipstick here that you check the level, and you want to do that with the car running. And last but not least, windshield washer fluid. Okay, next thing we're gonna do a walk around the car, check all the lights, make sure they're working. Brake lights, reverse lights, headlights, high beams, low beams, fog lights, side marker lights, all that good stuff, just so you don't get on the road and get pulled over for something stupid. I did just go over all this the other day because I had a taillight out when I was cruising around, but I did fix that. All right, so that's it. So just a real quick, easy inspection of your car to make sure the thing is safe, nothing's falling apart, nothing's hanging off or leaking really bad, so you can stay off of the side of the road and mainly on the road. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.